Welcome back to the table.
Tablecast, come to the table with Melissa and Amanda. We are so excited, and we are going to start out this season with a bonus episode.
Here we are, the catch-up episode. We're pre-gaming.
We just wanted to share with you guys what we've been doing since we took a break after season 3, what God is doing in our lives, and kind of prep you a little bit for what's coming up in season 4.
Yeah, so exciting. It's been a minute. I don't even know how long it's been. I don't keep track of those things very well. I just know it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, where did we leave off? We left off. We reconstructed.
And then we were living abundantly.
And the only thing, living abundantly. And that was our last episode. And then I feel like in that episode or one right before it, this is just off the top of my head, the best I can remember, we were talking about building houses.
Yes.
And I do remember having a little bit of a crisis at the end of the season because you started talking about building houses, which is a great metaphor for all kinds of things, but like foundation and having a plan, and like we did all that, we've come so far, but I did have a freak out moment because I was like, well, what kind of house do I want? And where do I want my house to be? And like, there was a lot of questions to be answered in that building of a house analogy for me. So, but if you've been with us for any amount of time, you do realize that my neuroticism is a little, well, it's a bit much sometimes. And that was to be expected because we opened, I feel like every time I feel like I'm gaining ground, like I was like, yes, we're so good. And then you peel back a layer and I'm like, I'm not good no more. And I'm like, another layer, but I'm good today. So, but I did over the last couple months that we've taken a break, has been a little bit of a roller coaster, but a good roller coaster. A good roller coaster. We just spoke with a lady, and she said, sometimes you don't know where you're going until you get there. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's it, because you go through living life like in chaos, or living life with, traumatic events, or living life and always waiting for like the other shoe to drop. So yeah. Or always waiting for something bad. Well, this is great. Life is good, but that just means that it's going to get bad again. And you get into that mindset and that becomes your norm. And when you start to break apart things and heal from them, and you experience a new norm where things are good, there's a part where you stop living in the process of waiting for the bad thing to happen, and then you go, okay, well, nothing bad's coming, in a sense of where you're not waiting for it anymore. I mean, bad things might happen and things might come, but you're not living life under this anxiety of when is the other shoe going to drop?
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, wait, I'm okay. Things are okay. I'm good. Life is good, and this is okay. Then it becomes a part of you, it becomes norm, and then you don't even and then you're there, and you're like, I didn't even know this is where I was going, but here I am. So, yeah, that's just been the crazy. I could get into some details, but why don't you jump in and what have you had?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, like that. You don't know where you're going till you get there. Some days I don't even know what direction I'm going. Like I don't even know where I'm at. But yeah, so I was working in a middle school, ended up, I'm returning next year as a substitute, so that we can focus on this a little bit more full time. My husband, does competition barbecue. He just, we're going to add catering to that also. My dog had puppies. Any chaos that you can add to your life, we're steering into the skid, and I'm just along for the ride at this point, because anytime I try to figure out what it is that God is doing in my life, and I'm very type A, and so I very much am like, okay, this is the plan. Here's the plan. We're going to do the plan. And I think God sometimes looks at me. He's like, "Oh, you little child," and he's like, "Oh, that's your plan. Oh, that's really cute. This is my plan. So we're gonna do my plan, okay?" So I think God does that just to keep me like in check, so I don't get too big for my britches. But yeah, so that is what we're doing. I have my oldest is going to be a senior this year. I'm not really sure how I feel about that. That's like exciting and like just kind of like mind-blowing all the same time. And then we're going to have a freshman and an 8th grader. That's like, we have like big pivotal years, this year. So just good things all around. Like nothing, like the chaos has been good chaos. Like it hasn't been like destructive or toxic chaos like, like the past has been. But I mean, just good things. But yeah, just busy for sure.
Yeah, I find myself with the last 2 of my children in high school and being like 3 years away from the last one graduating high school, that I am closer to the life that happens after all the kids graduate high school and there's no kids in the house than I am to like raising like children.
Yeah.
And so it's strange to be in a process of like, because they don't always want to hang out with me. I mean, they do a lot, which is really good. But it's like, what do I do?
Well,
Who am I? What do I want to do? I can do whatever I want. Like, but then also not taking that and running completely to, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah. There's a fine line between like, my kids are grown. If I want to go out to dinner by myself or, if me and my husband want to go out to dinner, we can do that. We don't have to find a sitter and do all the things.
Right.
But also,
like,
we're still parents and have responsibilities.
Yeah. And so there's now it's like these transitional moments of I'm like, if I want to do something, I can go do it. And then I'm like, well, do I need to invite? Well, I guess I can go do things by myself. So there's some of that. And then I do end up inviting the kids a lot to things, but or they're like, no, one's over here, one's over there. Like I found myself legitimately by myself one day, and I was like, what do I do? And I don't know what to do, and I don't even remember now what I did, but I was like,
well, isn't it crazy like how your life changes? Like when your kids are little, like that's all I would crave was just, I just want time alone. I just want to sit alone in silence and not have someone climbing all over me or needing something from me, and just, and then you reach a phase where it's like everyone is off doing their own thing and you're just like, well, okay.
And like I went down my list and I'm like, I mean, I could clean the house, I could do, but I had no, there was really legitimately nothing that I needed to do. And I was like, wow, I have like nothing. I'll go do something.
Yeah.
I think I did something. I don't even remember now what I did, but I know, I mean, I entertained myself obviously, but, so there's been that transition that's going on. And like, really like, I said, it's been a roller coaster, as many awesome breakthroughs as I've had, and just so many things that God is just illuminating and bringing clarity. And I'm, for every, like I said, it's like a layer. It's like you open up a layer and it's like, okay, I'm going to work on that, and I need to deal with that and need to process through that. And I'm really learning. I'm sure some of this is just age. We just be coming into this age of like, well, I'm not in the rat race, You're not trying to get somewhere. Like, you spend so much of your time, like, trying to acquire, earn, and go, and have a career and all that stuff. And now I'm at this age where I'm just like, I'm closer to like, I want to be retired. Like, what is this work stuff? I reduced my full-time job hours, which we talked about at the end of last season, and doing that and doing more of this. And so I'm like, oh, I gotta get up and do something. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, that requires hard work. We don't want to do that. But it's been a lot of transition, but it's been so good. The good times are super good. The bad times aren't as bad. I have learned to rely, like, just like legitimately, even just to like, even yesterday, like, my car started acting funny, and I was like, really, again, like, just another thing. Like,
Yeah.
I found myself going right back into that place of like, this always happens, you know, like, why does this always happen? Or it's always something. Like, I just got everything right. Here's the other shoe.
Yeah.
Like, it's a habit to go there. And then, so I'm sitting in this parking lot, so I flip on, like, Facebook, because I'm like, what am I going to do? So I go onto Facebook to distract myself for a minute, and there's this pastor that has these Facebook reels that I watch, and he, like, pops up, and he's like, let's talk about prayer. And I was like, I like listening to this guy. He's funny, so I'm going to listen to him, and he's, like, talking about, you know, we go in our human response versus why not just give it to God, you know? And he had a whole story that went along with that, and I was like, huh, all right. Turned off my phone, and I was like, in this situation, my first response should really be to pray, you know, and give it to God and find peace about it. I don't need to respond in my humanness and in stress and anxiety, you know, because God knows what I need. And he knows my car fan is going to be a little crazy, then we're going to work it out, right? And so I was like, so I just was able to change that whole situation in life, but faster than ever. And like, more of a, just little reminders like that. And so,
well, because you changed your mindset, and I think, like, we talked about it in previous seasons of, like, you know, that was kind of like one of the most annoying things people would say. It was like, just give it to God. Just give it to God. And, like, that was just a great example of what that phrase really means. It's, you just need to take a minute and change your mindset. And
put it into action and get into a place.
Yeah, because it is so easy after, you know, years of going through chaos or trauma or whatever, you know, whatever. It is so easy to jump right back into that, like, oh my gosh, just another, and you almost like spend so much of your time having a pity party or feeling like the victim of everything, and kind of like, woe is me, versus just like, well, this sucks. All right.
Well, and I think, like, really so much of it, I've done so much like identity building and who I am in Christ.
Yeah.
That, like, when Jesus says, you know, like, you wouldn't put old wine, or you wouldn't put new wine into an old wineskin.
Yeah.
You wouldn't repair old fabric with new cloth, because that's not, you know, the wineskin's going to burst. Your fabric is going to, the old fabric's going to tear apart from the new fabric. And just really seeing about how living as a new creation in Christ, and then owning that identity, and being like, okay, I have a choice to make. I can either go back into that old identity and then rob myself of what all the things that God has for me, or I can live in my new identity and be like, no, wait a minute, like, we do these things a new way. But being able to stop and take a minute, like, and being okay with being still, and being okay with, you know, the noise, not having all the noise in my head all the time, and just being like, oh, like, I am a new creation. Like, God has done a work. I'm a totally, you know, changed human being. Like, it's one thing to look back 10 years, because I always was like, if you watch the progression of my life, I'm like, okay, there's like Melissa in her 20s, Melissa in her 30s, you know. Now we have Melissa in her 40s, but this is like short time span. This is like in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's so close, and so it's very exciting. I'm so excited to see where, you may have noticed we kind of changed the name of the podcast. I guess. Tablecast is what we would call it, behind the scenes.
Well, and like,
you've probably seen it on all of our stuff. It said #Tablecast.
Yeah, because we thought it was cute and catchy. Like, cute. It's Come to the Table podcast.
Melissa
it's a Tablecast.
Has ADHD, and she needs something catchy to be like. But I struggle with be like, because when I hate writing, like physically writing, it's like takes so much time for me to write clearly and neatly that I physically hate the chore of doing it. So to write Come to the Table didn't work with letters because it couldn't be CT.
Well, and then it's like CTTT, and then you're like, that looks stupid.
So I could write Tablecast. And so I was like, can we just be
Tablecast?
The Tablecast pod? Like, can it just be Tablecast? And so you'll notice that coming up, which is really cool.
Yeah.
That works. And now we can call you all Tablecasters, which it didn't work to call you Come to the Tablers.
Yeah.
That didn't. I was like, that doesn't flow. But so we did that.
Yes.
And then it used to be past seasons was Amanda and I. And we had Brandy, we had Arena on, and we would sit around the table and talk. And now we have guests outside of that sphere. We have done so much, networking and just meeting people, and just God has opened up some amazing opportunities and doors to meet people and get outside of our front porch, essentially, and meet people like in Canada and across the country. And so I'm excited for that because the perspective has broadened. It's widened. So that'll be good fun. Other than that, I'm not doing anything really.
Yeah.
I do a lot, but I still feel like I don't do anything.
Yeah. Well, we're just doing this thing, and it still just blows my mind how we set out to start a Bible study in a church, and now we at the time we're recording this, we are it's a Monday right now. On Wednesday we're going to be doing a conference, and then there's a huge podcasting conference in Denver, so just right in our own backyard, coming up next month that we're going to go to. I'm super stoked because we have people in the Christian Podcast Association that I've seen faces on Facebook or in groups online, and we actually get to meet these people in person, and so it's so funny.
And we actually work, we get together and work.
Yeah, we have office
days.
Get
together and record. Now we get together and we actually do this thing called running a media company.
So, full disclosure, I am not going to be going to work every day at the school. I'm just subbing. So in order to trick my brain into being productive on the days that Melissa comes over and we do actual work days, I have to get up and get dressed in work clothes, nice dress clothes that I would wear as a teacher going to school, and do my hair and do my makeup, because then I feel like I have to be productive. Whereas, you would come over last season or season before and I'd have no makeup on and my hair would be thrown up in a messy bun or a hat, and I'm wearing a hoodie and yoga pants, and exactly. And so I've had to trick myself into being a productive human being. So that's always fun.
Yeah, but we have to trick Melissa into getting anything done by making her get up and go to work.
So that's why we meet at my house, because she has to get up and leave her house to go to work.
Because we've learned that I'm not the work at home person. There is no you don't want me to have a remote job. Nothing would ever get done. And so I get up, I get dressed, and I show up to work and clock in at Amanda's house. And we have an office, and we're doing things.
And it's so exciting. And it blows my mind how God just continuously opens doors, and we're meeting new people, and starting the podcast, and then that kind of led us down a path where we went to a conference and we kind of saw what this lady was doing, and we're like, we love what she's doing, but she's doing that just in the podcasting world. What if we did that for women across the board? Not just women podcasters, but whatever it is that you're doing. We want to support you and encourage you and give you a place and a space for your voice. And so that led to starting Asha, and now we got the magazine, and we got the online store, and we just, God continuously just opens these doors, and it blows my mind how, he's putting people in our path to learn from, to grow from. We've had a few experiences where it's oh my gosh, that lady, that was so amazing, and we've had a few experiences where well, that wasn't what we thought it was going to be.
What I thought.
So, note to self.
No, but you know what though? Like, I mean, I think that because I think about last season and it's really raw. It's raw.
Yeah.
And there's things that like, I go, did I say that? Did I think that? Did I believe that? Well, you know, we were going through a lot of changes and a lot of things, and we've been in a lot of places. But something we talked about that you had mentioned, you're like, it's like we've spent this time building the table. Mm-hmm. So now the table is built. Yeah. And now that we're coming out of season 3, we really have a strong foundation of who we've become and who we are. And the confidence is growing behind that. Mm-hmm. But I feel like, at least, and especially, I know, I'm sure you feel the same way in the conversations that we've had, but I know that I definitely feel like, no, you know what? Like, there's been enough growth and peeling back enough layers that I'm smart enough to know I'm not done growing.
Yes.
You know, we're constantly changing and learning new things, and I always want to be I'm a lifelong learner, so I'm always open to being like, hey, I may not have this 100% right.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to learn, but I'm confident enough in the places that I've landed, that I'm secure in that my values and who I am, we're now starting to see the evidence in that through the natural boundaries that come up.
Yes.
And so where before we might have been like, yeah, oh, you're it's good, you know, and even though something inside of us was like, that doesn't sit right with me, now through the experiences where we've had a few experiences with some people that it's like, okay, that's good, I love what you're doing, but it doesn't match.
Yeah, that's not our vibe.
Or even like, you know, just recognizing things that push on your boundaries, or recognizing, and this doesn't have to even do with like podcasting or business. This would be like in personal life. Yeah. Like just learning that a boundary isn't the wall that you build, but when you value and you know your values and you're aligned, then the natural overflow of that is a boundary that is formed that is very easy to uphold and maintain. Yeah. And it doesn't offend people. Yeah. Because it's not a wall, and you're not like you're not tearing people down or clawing down to get what you want or fight for your way. You're just like, oh, that's cool for you. I can appreciate that.
Yeah, that's where you are. That's great. I'm not there.
I'm not there. Yeah. And that's been.
And I'm not there yet. Or like the latest incident that we've had is like, oh, you're still there. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. You can still be there. Like maybe that's where you're supposed to be. We're not there anymore. We've moved on from that. Right.
Yeah, or that works for you. That doesn't work for me. You know, in the thing, in what I've got going on, and it's not a toxic thing to be there. It's not toxic to realize that we all have a different map, and we all have a different experience.
And it's so freeing that you don't have to. It isn't black and white. It doesn't have to be you're right, I'm wrong. It's not taking sides. It's
that's right for you. This is right.
That's
for
where you are with God. Then that's where you can be with God. This is where I'm at with God, and so. You don't try to change my mind, and I'm not going to try to change yours, because both of us should be right where we are with God.
With what we're doing, and I'm going to respect your dignity. Yeah. And you can respect my dignity, and we can still be okay with each other. Yeah. Like, there doesn't have to be an all-out battle. And so that's probably been the one thing, walking it out, that I've really appreciated in this season, especially taking a break from, you know, podcasting and all of that, is that I've just appreciated where I'm at. Yeah. And just seeing the hard work of the process, you know, come about. Yeah. And then just appreciating, you know, the people that God does have in our lives. I do think it's hilarious, and you do have to share the story about, your connection with people with ADHD.
So we're probably going to end up doing an episode
we will
later on this season about it, but God has just like, so my brother is ADHD, fairly positive, like it was way before like that was a thing, like it was a diagnosed thing, but like 100% my dad has it, like 100%. And so, like, I kind of have recognized the patterns. I married someone with it. You know, my oldest has it for sure. Pretty positive. You know, we're all on the we're all on the neurodivergent scale in my home in one way or another. And so then, you know, I get this job and I'm working with students and I'm working with kids who are learning tools and ways to be able to not just cope with their ADHD, but be able to thrive and really be productive, and use their strengths, because they do have strengths, use their strengths, but then also ways to work around the deficits that come with something like that. And so working with these students and just seeing them, and then you know, you
friends or
yes,
whatever,
and
you
so
know,
you've shared
other people,
yes, and so we've kind of made it a joke of like, you know, in the past I've been kind of like criticized and put down for my type A and my, you know, just who I am, and I've really kind of come to this realization that, like, because I spent so many years like really beating myself up about it and really feeling terrible for who I was and why do I have to be so organized and why does it matter, and like I really would spend so much time just like, everyone is so nonchalant and just go with the flow, and why do I feel like I have to have a plan? And like, yes, there's things, like I said before, like sometimes God looks at me, he's like, oh, you're so funny. But like with anything, there's too much. But like I really do believe, like now especially, God has given me the personality that I have because he knew everyone I love is going to have neurodiversity in some way. And we just, like, my husband prefers the term, he's neurospicy.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah. So
my neuro salad.
Yeah, he's just a little spicy.
So I came over to Amanda's house a couple weeks ago. I sat down and I said, sorry, I'm going to try to get my brain working and focused on this today, but I'm having a complete, like, I'm a total mess. And I had a complete free-for-all tears, mental breakdown right in front of Amanda. And she looks at me. Now I'm expecting no sympathy, but she looks at me and she goes, yep. What? And she's like, well, I got 4 other people with ADHD in my life who in the last 4 days have all had this exact same occurrence. And so I was like, looked at her and I'm like, oh, you poor thing. All your friends have ADHD and we all just had a meltdown in the same week.
But it was like, to me, I was like, don't feel bad. Like, you're not alone.
You're not
like,
alone.
This is normal, very normal.
So I felt better really quickly because I was like, I felt so bad for you. I felt like, here, I'm burdening you with my complete
not at
emotional
all.
breakdown. And
not at all.
And then I found out you had to deal with more of us. But yeah, so we'll probably do an episode about that because God has definitely gifted you in bringing us along.
And I feel like, especially in Christian circles, we spend so much time trying to fit this mold and fit this thing that, you know, and especially as women, like, I mean, we've talked about it before. If we have to hear Proverbs 31 one more time, we're going to throw up, like, because it is an unattainable goal. And so just really being able to break free of that and embrace your individuality and your weirdness and your kookiness and your whatever, like, you know, the joke in our house is like, everyone's weird. We're all weirdos. Like, everyone is a weirdo. And people who make it seem like they're not weird are just really good at hiding their strange. And so everyone has a level of weird in them. And so kind of embracing that. But yeah, we'll probably definitely do an episode on that. Maybe I can talk my husband into joining us. That would be a kick. We'd have to choose, like, when the dopamine is high, we'd have to choose.
Yes, that is a common conversation. We're like, so, okay, so
we're riding the dopamine wave. But, so yeah, so we have that coming up this season. We've already recorded with some people. We have people coming up this season I am so stoked about. We're going to sit down with Arena. So if you've been with us since the beginning in the Hot Mess Express, that was season 1, Arena joined us. She was with us a little bit in season 2. And so she's kind of gone off. God has brought her down a path. She's doing her own thing, which is amazing. And so we'll have a catch-up episode with her where we're just going to kind of check in and see what God's doing in her life.
I get to visit with her. I try to go visit her. Like, she's only like an hour away from us, but I try to visit her, you know.
Yeah.
And then it'll be a while, and I'm like, I haven't seen you. I have to come see you. But I just always love sitting down and chatting with her. Like,
yeah.
She is a wealth of information on all kinds of things. She's helped me with some school issues with my kids, and just really like being an outside voice to, like, especially when you're like trying to mom.
Yeah.
And you're just emotionally upset because these things are happening. So to get an outside perspective, I mean, it's just amazing the people that God brings in our lives to help us through, especially in areas where we don't have a strength there or whatever. But yeah. So I mean, other than that, I mean, my life is pretty boring, but
yeah,
that's really all I've been doing. You know, is just doing life.
But we are so excited for this season. Like, we have been stoked for this season for a while now. We are getting new photos done. Yeah. So Paige with PS Photography, amazing.
I don't know who she takes a picture of, but somehow I show up at a photo shoot and the person on the photo is fabulous.
Yes.
I'm like, I like that lady. She needs to go get her picture more often.
Yes. No. So Paige does amazing work. She's been our photographer since the very beginning, since we decided we needed to probably have pictures of ourselves that weren't like taken with our phone in my basement. So we're doing that, and we just, so many good things, and we're just so excited to share that with you and have you along for the ride. But we just kind of wanted to catch up and share with you what we've been doing. We know that these 3 months you guys are still listening, which like blows my mind. So I get emails every week of like, this is how many downloads you've had this week. And like, it was like a month ago. I mean, we hadn't put out a new episode in 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. And we had like 47 downloads in a week. And I was like, holy crap, what was that? Yeah. And so, thank you. Thank you for continuing to listen.
Thank you, because without you, like, I wouldn't be sitting here doing this thing that I love to do, and like just having the best days.
Yeah.
Like, it is an amazing thing to be able to get up every day and participate in what you were called to do with your life.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for where it's going. I'm excited for all the things I don't know that are coming.
Yeah.
Like, in a good way now.
Yeah.
It used to be waiting for the shoe to drop in a bad way. Now I'm just like, okay, God, what's next? Like, where are we going? Who are we meeting? What are we doing? You know, I'm so excited for it. And that is truly thanks to you, our listener. Yes. And we're glad that you've stuck with us. We're thankful. And I can't wait to share with you all the fun things that we have coming up.
Yes. So it just, like you said, we get to do this. Yeah. And it just, every time I stop and I think about it, it almost brings me to tears that like, we get to do this. Like, this is something I know you and I individually dreamed about for a long time. And God brought us together collectively at the right time, in the right season. And like, we get to do this. Yeah. And
amazingly, like, it's funny how, because like you talk about you having your plans, you know, and God being like, oh, okay, you know, we're gonna do something different. But like, I didn't know what a podcast was when we started this podcast.
Yeah.
So my vision for this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I've been trying to get there for all these years, never included this thing called a podcast.
Yeah.
But when it clicked that this was like, I'm like, oh, holy cow.
Yeah.
This is phenomenal. Like, and now it's like, So, then you're like, oh, I gotta take this seriously. And then now to be intentional about it. Just to find that intentionality and being like, I want to be respectful of that, and I want to honor what it is that God has called me to do.
Oh yeah, because He's allowed us to do this,
and just pursue it in a way.
Yeah.
Of how do we serve our listener to the best of our ability with what God has given us, and how to make sure that everything we say and everything that we do just exemplifies who He is. In that, for me personally, it's that his arms are wide open, and so there's always a seat for you at the table, and we're not going to tell you what that seat has to look like. Like, you get to decide what that seat looks like, but I want to always allow there to be a seat.
Yes.
There, and that's where a place, a space, and a voice that you mentioned earlier, came from. Yeah. Podcasting is giving women a voice, like a vessel for their voice, and we so need that. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the lady, she gave out a statistic that 70% of what goes out, as far as even news interviewing or the media message that goes out, 70% of it is going out from a male perspective. So half of the population, we're still not half represented in, even into news interviews, to where you're going to watch a news interview from a 70% male perspective. You were only represented as a female in the 30%.
Yeah.
And that's not okay.
Yeah.
And so a place for women, because there's room for everyone. There's room for all of us.
Oh yeah.
And unique, and however God made you, and we talk about that, and you mentioned the neurodiversity or whatever, but humanity's diverse. But there's a place and a space for every single one of us, and especially as women, being able to support other women and say, yes, this is what I'm doing, but I've also been the woman who's sat there and known that there was something I was supposed to be doing and just needed somebody to help open a door, do something. There needed to be a catalyst. And so you definitely want to honor that and be that in this place and space for other women.
Well, so my middle kid and I went on a trip. He's done with 8th grade. So at the middle school, they have the opportunity to go on a trip to New York and DC, and you go pretty much any historic, American history, anything in those two cities, we go hit it, right? And so doing all of the memorials and monuments and everything in DC, and one of my favorites was FDR, and they had a whole section on just him and his wife, and because he would do the fireside chats, right? And so it was for the first time, it wasn't someone telling you what the president said. The president was personally telling you, and people would tune in to their radios. And his wife would do one, and she called it Coffee with the First Lady or something like that. And she would talk to women, and she was really the first one to have a female voice in the radio world that was not sexualized and not in conjunction with a man's voice. It was her talking to women. And like you said, there's so much healing, so much encouragement, so much growth that comes from women sharing with other women and supporting one another. And last night I took my kids to youth group, and I had dropped them off, and I was driving home, and I was stopped at a stoplight, and there was a Jeep in front of me, and they had their back window down, and there is a golden retriever, and he has his head hanging out the back window, and his tongue's hanging out of his head, and he's just has the biggest golden retriever smile on his face, and he's just loving life, right? So I took a picture of him, and I did Snapchat, and I sent it out. I was like, this fella's just out here living his best life. And it was so funny because as you were talking about we get to do this, that all I pictured was that golden retriever. Like, we're out here with our tongues hanging out of our head. Like, it's hard, it's hot sometimes, like we're panting, but like we are out here living our best life, and it just like it blows my mind that God like has done everything that he's done through this, and I am so stoked for this season just to invite other people to the table. And so if you have a story, I mean, we have authors, we have speakers, we have other podcasters on, but if you are just an everyday lady, and like God does amazing things through everyone. And so if you have a story to tell and you want to share that, we would love to feature you and have you on our podcast. So yeah, hit us up, because we want to, our table's plenty big.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And sometimes it's the, I have found that sometimes it's like just the smallest, you might even miss it if you don't look
Yeah.
for a moment. Those things are sometimes the biggest things. And so don't discount any of it. But yeah, if you, and yeah. But we're glad you're here. We're glad to be back, and we're excited to get rolling again.